Hello and welcome to another episode of Critical Eye. If you're new to this series, I can explain the concept. Basically, this is a short review of games I play. I won't go into every detail about the game I'm talking about, but enough to paint you a decent picture of what the game is about. And today, we are talking about Yomawari, Midnight Shadows. So let's get started. Yomawari Midnight Shadows was released on the 24th of August 2017. It's a survival horror game developed by Nippon Iki Software and also released by the same company. It was released on PS4, PS Vita and Microsoft Windows. I played the entire game with a good friend of mine, and I can say that horror games with RPGs are probably my favorite genre. Having played games like all the Resident Evil games, all the Silent Hill games, The Evil Within, Amnesia, Outlast, Fear, and so on, I feel sorta qualified to say something about this game. Yomawari Midnight Shadows is the sequel to the game Yomawari Night Alone. The story of Yomawari Midnight Shadows is told through the perspective of two young girls called Haru and Yui. At the very beginning of the game, the two girls get separated and you spend the rest of the game trying to search for each other in a town haunted by spirits and other crazy creations. You switch between controlling the two girls, giving you a good sense of what's happening to each one of the girls at any given time. You get to explore the town freely, and you can keep track of where you are through a map which displays different places throughout the city. The map is drawn in a very childish way, which is a nice nod to the fact that we are actually playing children in this game. The town is overflown with spirits and other weird creations. I gotta give the game credit for including so many different sorts of spirit. They vary from a goldfish with a huge eye instead of its head, to a small child calling for his mother while blocking his eyes from your flashlight. The flashlight sort of works as a revealer for the spirits in the city. Most of the spirits can't be seen without it. The sound and the look of the spirits are really creepy, but I wish the spirits would have more meaning. It doesn't seem like a lot of the spirits have any specific reason for looking the way they do. A lot of them seem to be designed for the sole purpose of being creepy, instead of having some kind of symbolic meaning to the characters you are playing. Take Silent Hill 2 for example. You had creatures like nurses, pyramid head, monster beds, and so on to represent the sins of the main character. In this game, that doesn't seem to be the case at all, unless I'm missing something huge. The monsters kill you instantly as well. If you touch a monster, you're dead and need to restart from the previous save point. That could get frustrating for a lot of people, and it did for us as well. You can, however, use items you get throughout the city as help for evading the enemies. You have items like a paper plane and rocks, which you can throw to distract enemies. These items, together with different hiding spots, makes it a bit easier to dodge enemies. You have other items, like the coin, which you need to use every time you save, which in theory means that you don't have an unlimited number of saves, but you find coins everywhere, and you can carry 10 at a time. The items respawn as well when you die, so you can basically farm all the items if they're close enough to a save point. You also have a detection system, which is displayed through sound. Whenever a spirit is nearby, your heart will start beating faster. The faster the heartbeat, the closer the enemy is. If you feel up for exploring the city, you can find collectibles and charms. The collectibles can be pieced together if you find everyone in one specific item class. This can vary from puzzle pieces to diary pages. The charms are used to empower Haru. You can find charms which allows you to carry more rocks, run faster, run for longer, and so on. The basic items like the coin and the rock feels kinda useless to have a limited amount of. Because of the respawning system I mentioned earlier, we never ran out of either one of those items. 75% of the time we actually had too many, so we couldn't pick up anymore. The main objective of the game is, like I mentioned earlier, to find each other. So through the story you go through places like the local library, the sewers, and haunted mansions. Finding these places and knowing where to go next is shown to you through a cute dog that keeps showing you the way. The dog usually barks at you, calling you to follow. This will always eventually lead you to the place where you're supposed to go next. Walking around and exploring inside these buildings is a good change up from running around in the streets. That being said, it's inside one of these places some of the gameplay problems come to show. Somewhere around the midpoint of the game, it just devolves into trial and error thing. There are things falling from the sky, things jumping straight at you out of nowhere, and a bunch of other things that result in your immediate death. It's easy to get frustrated at this point, seeing how the game clearly wants you to die, just to prove to you that you shouldn't do the same thing next time. From this point on, the game never slows down. You are always constantly chased by spirits or walking in a very specific pattern to avoid all the things they throw at you. The only break you get from these things is when you're out in the streets. The developer clearly wants you to die as often as possible, just to show you that you're never safe. When there is a trophy that says die 80 times, you know that you're in for a death spree. One of the weak points with dying so much is not just the frustration of having to do a section of the game over again, but the save points themselves. Almost at every key point in the game, where you can clearly see that you're going to die once or twice, they put a save point before the entire section, and there is usually a cutscene before the encounter starts. The cutscenes of the game are kinda useless, they take way too long and they tell you way too little. I can't even count how many times they use a cutscene to show you that your character falls on her ass, gets back up and shines around with a flashlight. These cutscenes can't be skipped either, which makes the whole thing just more frustrating. Some of the encounters, especially the bosses, seem kinda weird as well. They are generally designed good enough, seeing how few gameplay elements they have to work with, but some of them are just downright silly as well. There is one boss fight where you have to take literal trash from one place to another. After you have moved every trash thingy, the boss dies. The game is topped off with a rather disappointing ending, which really doesn't answer too much you didn't already know about halfway into the game. We were always waiting for another twist to be in there somewhere, but there wasn't. It needs to be said that there are supposedly two different endings, seeing how you get some choices at the end of the game. So with these things in mind, if you're going to play through Yomawari Midnight Shadows, you need to have patience. This game is not for people who doesn't like to try things again until they make it. As you can see by the gameplay in the background, this game also have a very different style to it than normal horror titles. It sort of reminds me of a more hand-drawn version of Corpse Party. The game has some strong and well done parts, like the design of the spirits, the sound design, and the whole atmosphere around the game. It really gets creepy at times. But these things aren't without its flaws. Like I said earlier, I would like some more reasoning behind the design of the spirits. I always find it more interesting when I can find a reason why the monsters look the way they do. Most of the bosses and encounters are decently designed, but relying too much on trial and error can get frustrating at times, especially with the unskippable cutscenes would usually take up too much time to tell you too little. The fact that the story is told through you controlling two characters who are always at different locations is kinda interesting. I like this concept because it doesn't make me bored of one place before they move me to another. The game is not bad at all. I just can't recommend it to players who doesn't like horror games or games where you have to try over and over again. I have played through the game once and I feel like that's enough. I am not too interested in what happens in the other ending, but I do not regret playing the game either. If you're interested in horror games and have patience, I would pick it up at some point. It's worth a playthrough. So, I hope you enjoyed this second episode of Critical Eye. In these reviews, I won't be giving game ratings. I'll just state how the game works and how the different elements of the game is. I'll recommend the game for certain players if I can recommend the game at all, but I won't rate it. Well, like I said, hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, please show your support, and until next time, goodbye and thanks for watching.